Join us right now on the Mattress Warehouse Hotline. John Keim from ESPN.com. Good morning, John.
What up, guys? How are you?
Oh, just happy to be talking about a win. Doesn't matter if it's ugly or not. It's rare here in Washington, and they got a win.
I mean, it beats the alternative.
Sure.
You're going to see some belly aching about, I mean, obviously the game changes when Joe Burrow goes out. We all know that. But there have been times in the past this team doesn't win a game like that, or they're the team losing a game like that. So, it's a win. You move on.
What do you do here? Obviously, no one wanted to see Joe go out like that. It was awful. But what they really exploited with him, and other teams have done the same thing, is that quick passing attack, right?
Yes.
Just get rid of the ball within 2 seconds. And frankly, I don't know anything about defense. I don't know how you stop that. I guess you have to play up tight on the receivers. I mean, what else can you do to try to neutralize that? Because they seem to have their way with us. And, obviously that neutralizes Chase, Montez, and everybody else.
It does. And I think that's – it's funny because I don't know if there's an easy answer because, if I knew it, you would think that they would know it, right? But what you see is, there are definitely times where the coverage is a little bit soft. And, so you see that. But then there are other times where there was one slant to A.J. Green, I think it was, and Fuller was playing off. So you're playing off, so you're probably expecting somebody underneath, and there was nobody underneath. So whether somebody busted their assignment, whether it's a linebacker or somebody else, whether they just got fooled by play action, that happens too. You're not seeing, at times maybe you got to get the D lineman to get their hands up a little bit quicker. If you're not going to get the push or the rush, then you got to get your hands up and maybe try and bat a pass. I mean, those are all things like, some of that is just, well, that's kind of obvious for them, right? But I do think that is a problem. And again, when I just finished watching the first quarter of the game, and there are times where you see what I saw, which is again some softer coverage, or somebody not dropping because fooled by play action, whatever. That keeps happening, and it happens a lot. I mean, Daniel Jones has done that, right? Matthew Stafford hurt him that way. So there are a few things going on there, but they have to get that fixed because, to me, that's you're going to keep giving up yards if that keeps happening, and so I think it'll be tough for them to do what they want to do if that doesn't improve.
John, some people are going to look at Chase Young's just go right to the sack numbers, 3.5 through 9 games. They're going to start labeling him as a disappointment. Is he a bust? But he's clearly an impactful player for this Washington football team defense. He's forced 2 fumbles. He's got 5.5 tackles for loss. I mean, we saw the play against Burrow where he stoned him near the goal line. So even though the sack numbers aren't gaudy, he's clearly making a big impact on the defense.
Yes, he is, and I'm not even going to go in the other direction because that's just not accurate. But yes, he is a very good player. He has to learn how to continue to run. He has to continue to learn how to rush the passer, and I think that's the next step for him. And I think any young pass rusher that comes in has to learn that. And if you're, and I think that's just that'll get you to those gaudy numbers. But when what you see is a lot of double teams, sometimes a third guy paying attention to him, and you see an impact there. If you're getting that much attention, others need to be winning their battles. Sometimes you'll see a lot of max protection with teams that neutralize both he and Montez Sweat. You see the and the Joe Burrow fumble. That happens because of his ability to, not just ability, but desire to stay in that play and get over there and knock the hell out of him, right? So that's something you consistently see. So there is a lot of very good things that you see from him, and the next step is to become better as a one-on-one pass rusher, and that could be a matter of, he's pretty good with his hands, but you can improve there. And then I think it's also like, how do you attack the offensive lineman? It seems like he's getting better there in the last few weeks, where early in the year you'd see him a lot of times get his legs stopped on some of his rushes, and that was partly because he was a little bit too square rushing them, and therefore easier to stop. You're not seeing that quite as much lately. I haven't seen it much at all. So I think there's a slow improvement there, But that's the next step, and it does take a little bit of time. I think the one thing that they're going to hang their hat on with him too is that this is a guy who is like, the Ryan Kerrigan said it yesterday. He's like a 10-year vet. And so I think that approach is why they can feel good about where he's at right now and where they think he's going to get. He's not finished. He's not a great pass rusher at this point in the NFL, but he's a very good player, and he's definitely helped them.
So Antonio Gibson had a big day, and I go back and forth on this guy. He's so good in the open field, but he looks awkward sometimes hitting the hole and that sort of thing. You could see that he's kind of inexperienced. But, man, you look at the numbers, and, he's got 8 touchdowns, and you get a day like yesterday, you go, well, this might be the guy. Maybe he will be the guy. Where do you stand on Gibson?
Kind of that same thing. And again, you see the improvement with him. I mean, he's a far better runner than he was in the first game of the year.
Yeah.
And you see it just little things like he had a sweep yesterday. I think he got like 6 yards on it. But you saw him set up the linebacker better. So they're flowing to the right, and he kind of gives a little fake like he's going to go inside, but the linebacker has to hesitate. But I really don't think he had any intention of cutting inside. I think he set him up, and it created enough of an opening for him to get 6 yards on the play. Little things like that you're starting to see. So I think the vision is getting there. You still see him sometimes running up on the back of a blocker. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you're probably talking about. So, and I think the one thing that I wonder, and this is stuff that because we're not in the locker room, you just don't get a chance to talk to him about some of this stuff, but when you see those guys really take a big jump is when they're able to look past that first level of defender because you already know what you've got there. And so you can set up the next guy, and that's how you get some bigger runs. That's something Adrian Peterson always talked about. Now, he was a freak of a running back, but, so that's a little bit different. But I wonder where, that's the thing, like I'd like to talk to him more about that aspect of where he's at in his development. But you definitely see better from him. And I think what you're also seeing more of is his lowering the shoulder a little bit better and moving forward on contact.
He finishes runs really well.
Yeah, he's been doing that a lot better. And that early on he was very upright, and so he would get stuffed and knocked back, or nothing beyond that. So I think that's been. So I think you definitely see strides there, and I think that's why. That's what you wanted to see from him this year. He's making strides.
Talking to John Keim, covers the team for ESPN.com. Let's talk about the defense. I was talking about this actually on pregame yesterday with Logan and with the guys. When you look at some of these numbers, Washington has one of the better defenses in the league, but then when you see them give up over 30 points in 5 games and you see them play a better quarterback like they did in Matthew Stafford a week ago and you saw what Joe Burrow was doing, it just doesn't match up.
No.
What do you see in this defense, particularly the pass defense? Like the pass defense is ranked number 1 in the league, which is maddening to me.
It is, and I think that's part of that is a function of who you're going to play. And I was looking at this yesterday, and in terms of for like ESPN, we go by total QBR, right? So that you try to measure the impacts of the quarterback on a game. And in that category, they have faced one quarterback that's in the top 10 in total QBR right now, and that's Kyler Murray. And I think Baker Mayfield will be the next highest. So certainly not the in terms of passing, not the 2 best quarterbacks they face. I mean, Kyler obviously very good, and they both have some skills there. But then you get to the,
yeah, but both of those games, you know what? It makes sense. So the best quarterbacks they've faced statistically have been Kyler Murray and Baker. Well, both of those teams ran for a ton against Washington.
They did, absolutely. And Daniel Jones has hurt them with that, again, the quick passing game and again, 7-man protections a lot of times and neutralize what they do best or what you would think they would do best. So, the safety play, clearly an issue. That's been a problem. So, yeah, I don't think the stats match up to where they are. And I think they'd have to be honest when they're looking at it to say that, while there are some good things there, you can't sit there and just say, hey, this is who we are. I don't think that is who they are, right? So, we've seen it. It's just,
John, to that end, let's just say that they win enough that they're sort of out of the top-tier quarterbacks, okay, in that first round, like top 2 or 3 guys. And they say they pick 12th or something. What position would you target to upgrade in the draft?
On defense or anything?
Anything overall. For me, I think it would be linebacker. That's, to me, the glaring need at this point. But you tell me what you think.
Well, I think honestly, it depends. I hate to say this, but it depends who's there, because I'm going to target a player more than a position at that point. But if the top player is a linebacker and it's a Devin Bush type, like I'm all for that. Mm-hmm. If it's a Minka Fitzpatrick sitting there at 12, well, or someone like that, I'm going to take that. So it just depends on who's there. But I think those are positions that I would definitely target. You could look at tackle, get somebody else at offensive tackle, something like that. So, but defensively, that's where I would go. It's clear that they're looking for more from their linebackers, and that's why I know they rotated guys in and out because of different packages and all that, but I think they're still looking for who's going to be the guy that's going to produce on a consistent basis. And so I think that would be a spot that you would definitely have to look at. And, going back to the pass defense, there are some things, the key thing to me is going to be the point total too, and your red zone and third down. And they were good on third downs yesterday, but they were giving up a lot of yards.